What's up? It's Matt. We're back with another restaurant expert roundtable. We've got Ramona, who knows some killer secrets. But first, I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us about her book. Ramona, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. So my name's Ramona Pettygrave Shaw. I wrote Straight Up Real World Secrets to Running a Killer Bar. It came after working about a decade in the industry, of seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly in the industry, and a lot of people being pushed into management before they're ready just because there was so much trouble staffing.
Yep.
So yeah, just seeing what can go wrong with that. I'm really motivated to find the most efficient way to do everything. And I figured it could save a lot of people some time and make their lives easier.
So, the bar business, I'm sure even trickier in 2020 with what happened, but before then was pretty tricky. For me, for example, we help restaurants build an audience and bring the people back. Bars are a little different animal, but I
Mm-hmm.
also have seen my fair share of HR nightmares in the bar world.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk about a couple of the key takeaways from the book and some of the, I guess, was there a shining moment when you're like, okay, that's it, I'm writing a book on this?
So it's funny. I never ever thought I would write a book, but people just kept asking me kind of the same things over and over again. And
Yep.
when I was able to reach out and help them, it seemed like it saved them a lot of time. And
Yep.
Everybody's time is so valuable, and being able to just have a conversation with somebody essentially and solve some of their problems, or at least giving them some starting points, was huge for me. And getting emails from people all out of the country, even, of how my book has helped them because they just got thrown into something that they weren't ready for, is it warms my heart and is exactly what I wanted to do. So yeah, in the book, I rely on a lot of things that don't seem to be kind of the status quo in the industry in general.
Yep.
So I'm a very organized person, and I find that if you can really kind of hone in on your organization from your personal stuff, when you're doing management, you're dealing with a lot of paperwork, orders, scheduling, costs, all of that. So finding a way to kind of streamline it so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. And if you're hiring people, you have training agendas that, you don't have to kind of wing it every time. You have a system in place, and then everybody's kind of on the same page. So that kind of carries through all the way from how you work with your employees to how you set up your bar. Consistency is kind of something that's lacking in the restaurant industry, but makes everybody's life so much easier.
Yeah, I remember the first time what you just explained to me in our company. We call SOPs, standard operating procedures. I'll never forget when I first heard that term years back. I was telling a coach of mine about my team and what we were doing with our business, and he's like, "What would you do if this employee quit tomorrow?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, if she quit tomorrow, how would you assign everything she does on a daily basis to the new person?" I'm like, "I don't know. I guess I'd wing it." And he's
Yeah.
like, "No." He's like, "You got to imagine that everybody in your company the next day is going to go somewhere else, or you're going to bring somebody on to do their job with them. You've got to have it written down." And I think today I saw it. We are actually at a bar restaurant in Florida where we have 16 meetings yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And the one we're at was when the alcohol rep came by, and you could see and I've seen it before. They've got a what did you drop off today? How much was it? When you need a check. It was that whole conversation, and I can see where there's got to be processes to make sure that that goes down correctly. Because I remember when we had our boat dealership, one thing that cracked me up the most was when we received product, how lackluster we were sometimes actually logging what we received. And I remember out of nowhere, one of our manufacturers sent us a check for like $6,000. And I was like, "What is this?" He said, "Well, we've realized we've been billing you for this item the last 2 years. You've never received it." And I'm like, wow. And I think, and
And
I
you're
know how
paying
many,
attention.
so standard operating procedures is a key element there, and understanding, like you're saying, systems and procedures, especially when it comes to delivery of product.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of times, it's a very fast-paced world that we live in, and things just get dropped off and hopefully put away in the right spot. And,
Yeah.
if you're not checking what it is, everybody makes mistakes. And like you said, some things just are on this recurring billing, and somehow either it's the wrong thing or the wrong amount, and you don't know until you go to pick it up and it's too late. It's Friday night and you're busy, and then you forget until the next week, and somebody's opened every bottle because you don't have a standard operating procedure. Yeah, so I think that.
I was in a bar recently, watching an argument between, I'm guessing, one of the managers. I was in the restaurant part, but the bar next to it, and he was berating one of the bartenders about how much alcohol was left in one of the bottles, and she opened a new one. And it was kind of comical because when he walked away, you could tell that she was actually correct. He wasn't in what she did. But it was just an interesting conversation because you could tell somebody above him was on him because he was scared to death that that bottle, the cost of how many ounces was in there, where it went. And did you pour it down the drain? Like, no, I didn't throw a bottle away that had alcohol in it.
And that's the beautiful thing about when you get some systems in place and you're able to, get your costs in line, you get an awful lot more freedom from your management, where if you're making them a lot of money, you can have that creativity to put that special cocktail on the menu or try something new. You have a lot more freedom. Whereas if you're really just skating by, they're going to be watching your every movement because the bar is the part of the restaurant that makes money. That's where they make up for, a lot less ideal food costs and a lot of other overhead. Your bar's your moneymaker.
Yeah, I was in a restaurant in Pittsburgh called Hofbrauhaus Pittsburgh. It's a franchise of the one out of Munich, Germany, and they have a pretty large bar, obviously known for beer, but they do a pretty big liquor business. And I remember sitting there looking at something, and I was talking to the one of the operators, and he was looking at numbers, and he was on his computer looking through video surveillance. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I've got a problem I got to figure. I said, well, why? He's like, and this guy measures everything. He's like, well, based on our shifts and how we measure, somehow this time slot, the alcohol is caught. Our profit margins are half what they should be, which means that there's a bartender who's probably pouring a little too much for her friends. And that's what it was. It was one of the bartenders, and you could see where she was giving double shots, and every other shot was getting rung up, and the other ones weren't. And it was wild to see how, he had systems in place that happened to be before and after every shift that allowed him to narrow that down. Because I can imagine if it was nothing in place that he could just say, hey, this is 7 days a week, that's a lot of surveillance. He literally went to a 3-hour time period, saw who was on there, watched fast forward, and then looked at the receipts and was like, okay, here's the person that gets fired tomorrow.
Yep. Well, that's the great thing about the technology. It's starting to get there. It's not fully there yet for everybody. It's not that democratized. But I think in the near future, there will be a lot more streamlined ways of dealing with inventory instead of, staying up until the crack of dawn, doing the inventory on a Sunday night, and everybody's bleary-eyed doing the inventory, and then everything's a little shifting sands. So I think technology will come in the future and make jobs a lot easier for maintaining inventory and being able to pinpoint things like that, where right now it takes quite a bit of manpower to make it happen.
Yeah. Okay, shift and focus over to the sales side of it.
Yeah.
2020 was I'd say probably the part of the industry that got hit the most was bars. There's not much to-go shots of vodka. There's not many curbside pickups of margaritas typically. Looking at 2021 as bars and restaurants look to rebound that part of the business, what are some of the key pieces of advice you would give on marketing as things start to open up, the cold weather goes away in the April, May, June, and you're kind of getting back to normal? And how do they obviously can't recoup what they lost last year, but how can they get some traction started again?
Yeah. So unfortunately, kind of what's lost is lost, and it's not the kind of thing where people can kind of make up for lost time. But I think people are really going to be going out and are going to be dying to see their friends and people like that. So I think even something that can kind of play up the social media element of it, because people have been relying on social media so much in all of this time. So kind of like tying that in, because I know people are going to be wanting to go out, but there's so many places to choose from that are all vying for their business. So keeping visibility high is really huge. I feel like just kind of trying things that have worked for each, because places are so individualized, but I think the places that had regulars, you want to get those regulars back. So maybe if it's something, having a promotion that's within 10 miles or something like that, because people want to see all of their friends. So the more that you can gather all of those people and have them in one place where it can be kind of like a reunion, or even something where it is a reunion, or a party for the people of that area or that city that the people reside in, because that will instantly strike up all those relationships that had been kind of left hanging, and then instantly they're like, oh, this is the place where we come to see all of the people that we've missed so much. So I think just, giving the people what they want. People need that connection that they've missed out on for this long. I don't think it's about, like a free appetizer or something. I think the connection is so strong that that's the most important thing, rather than like a discount. But if they're in between two places, they might go to the place with the discount. So then you can just start that quickly. So yeah, I think it's all about getting that initial push is the biggest thing. So then you're the place where all of the people are hanging out and they know they can go to see all their friends.
Yeah. So, and I agree completely, visibility, you got to figure out a way to get that visibility over the person down the street. Cause you're right. There's, where I'm at in Florida, I'm amazed how many restaurants and bars we're driving by yesterday and today. I'm like, my gosh, they just print these things down here. But there's a lot of competition, and you're going to be places in the north, like where you're at. When you're up in New York and New Jersey, places that have been shut down way more than places down here, there's a lot of pent up demand. And so, like, what I've been telling restaurants and bars is, if you're in a place where there's pent up demand, try to figure out how to captivate that audience online, this spring, with some music performances online, with some special events that, are only happening online, because all you're trying to do is get back into their phone, get in their palm, so that when you do have the opportunity to really welcome them the right way, that you're top of mind, because there's a lot of your competitors that are probably resting on their laurels and just, sitting there twiddling their thumbs.
Yeah, this is the perfect time to get your really awesome cocktail menu gearing to go. Yeah, up here, some people are going out, but it's a lot more limited. It's nothing like it was. There's a lot of takeout, a lot of to-go. So once the vaccines start rolling through, it's just going to be like, and that's the other thing, dealing with staffing. Everybody's been on these bare bones crews, and, finding that fine-tuned way to start staffing and have people trained up and ready to go for when the gates start opening. Yeah. So you're not completely caught off guard.
What's another key topic from the book that you're really passionate about, that you think, hey, if you want to know about this, go to Amazon, buy the book, here's why? What would be one of the keys in there that sticks out to you as well?
I mean, obviously the consistency, but the most important thing to me was always the team. So you can build a strong team and have trust amongst everybody. You can do really amazing things, accomplishing some of the things that didn't seem possible just becomes like easy, when you have the right people. So that in order to get the right people, you have to offer things that will create a demand for people to want to work for you. So having good training programs where people feel like they're going to learn, they're going to get ahead, and also knowing when to let people go. You help build people up, and then when they move on to something bigger and better, they'll spread the gospel, and it will be kind of a thing where people know when they go to work for you, they're going to get better at their job. They're going to learn, be better people, and have the skills to go do anything in the industry. So yeah, it's a lot of trust, and I go into it with a lot of personal examples of, this is something common that happens. Here's how to confront that. Because there are a lot of issues that you run into on the bar, and like, how do I deal with this? This is a really awkward situation. This is a really tough situation. But yeah, just trying to find the way to hire the right people and treat them right, so you have the team that will really, they'll stand up for you when you need it, and you'll stand up for them when they need it. And that makes all the difference.
Yeah, I think a lot of people overlook that aspect of it. It's leading, leading by example, but also in, giving the right type of leadership. We were at a restaurant today, and I was impressed. We were meeting with the general manager, and all too many times when issues arise, people do it, the manager does it themselves. This guy didn't do a single thing while we were there except for support his team and say, hey, by the way, can you handle this? Or, hey, this customer came in, needs this. He could have waited on every one of the customers. He could have did everything, but instead he leaned on what he had been teaching these people. And you could tell they were all instructed correctly. They all knew what they were supposed to do. And like, a buddy of mine told me one time, he's like, if you ever go to there's a certain brand restaurant that we all know, fast food, that if you ever go there and you see the manager working in this capacity versus, standing on this corner and watching, they've probably not built a team, they've not trained their team correctly. And then by them always doing the job, they're just alienating their team that, okay, well, they're going to do it for me.
Yeah, there's a couple of different
sides.
Well,
how can people find, how can they?
Yeah. Oh, so
how can people find out more about you? How can they find the book?
Yeah, I mean, I would just dive right into the book, and it's the kind of thing where you can pick around, but going cover to cover, people have found to be the most helpful. And yeah, I'm not the best at social media these days, so I now have a baby. So
oh, congrats.
Thank you so much. Yep, she's 6 months and she is out with her dad at the moment, so we can have this conversation. But yeah, just dive into the book, and I have my email address all in there, and I'm here to answer questions and to help out, and I respond to people all the time, and that's how we met. And yeah, find me on Facebook or Instagram, and I will eventually get back to you on those, but email is best for me.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll make sure to drop a link in the comment to the book on Amazon. Get the book, check it out. It's a great read. It's got a lot of actionable tips. It's got a lot of advice that you can tell is from somebody that led by example, that actually did these things. So check the book out, get it on Amazon, and then reach out to Ramona. And Ramona, congrats on the baby girl. I have an 18-year-old, so I know the opposite end of how it turns out, but congrats and good luck.
Thank you so much, Matt. It was a pleasure talking with you.
You too.